just waiting for you.
Welcome to the 6th episode of the Brooklyn Fishing Club podcast. It's part 2 with Captain Rudy and Captain Frank. We got a very good response from our fans in terms of the last episode we did with them, so we really wanted to bring them back to hear even more stories and, get even more knowledge from them. So I got a few questions. A lot of the guys in the club that listen to this, they know that you guys are on tonight, so they've been texting me with all different types of questions that they want me to ask. The first one they have me asking is, what's the funniest thing a Guggen passenger has ever done on your boat?
Oh, let me think. Rudy, you go with that. I got to think.
I had this one guy, his name was, and he used to fish with me a lot. And
You don't have to give exact names.
This guy, well, I haven't seen him in years.
Just call him John Doe.
He was a funny dude. This guy used to bring, no lie, a shopping cart with food, breakfast.
An actual
beer.
shopping cart?
You know, the ones that the old women's have?
He would roll up to the dock with a shopping cart.
Yeah, he used to take car service, and he had the shopping carts that the old woman go to the store
Oh, the
with.
grocery. Yeah.
He had 5 to 6 cases of beverages, beer, yoo-hoo, soda, water,
Wow.
and tons of food. A 3-foot hero. He had chicken, this, that, and the other thing. And he had a little bottle of wild turkey
Oh,
and cut up lemons and limes. And need I say, this is the part I'm getting to.
Right.
This guy used to get so ossified. This is like 20, 25 years ago
yeah.
on my old boat, my Wellcraft. And we went out and we killed a fish. We must have had about 400 pounds of fish in the boat. Back down, we were able to keep whatever we caught.
Right.
And I had 2 wells in the floor that held about 200 pounds in each one. And this guy was so tall, I had a radar arch. And he hits his head on the radar arch because he was crucified. And he falls on the floor.
Right.
And he falls right into the well with the fish. We had the fish well open.
Yeah.
He fell in the well with the fish.
Yeah.
And he's just laying there like this.
That's a
the
good
other
picture.
guys go in the other well and they start throwing all the fish on top of him.
I hear you.
How about you, Frank?
Oh, that's a tough one. Let me think. Guggen's. Guys falling off the boat. Guys getting drunk.
Who fell off the boat?
A couple of guys did a 360 off the rail. Told the guy, don't, sit there. Of course, they don't listen here. They're hanging on to a bottle of wine, and I'm looking up. I see his boots going over the back of the boat. Of course, now we got to retrieve the guy. Hopefully, he's not dead or anything like that. Yeah. But there's probably a few of them. But I gotta think on that one.
All right, we can come back
Dig
to
it
it.
up.
Do you want to meditate for a minute? Or?
I could tell you the one about the deer. I don't know if you heard
deer?
that story.
No.
Yeah, we were out in Montauk on my friend's boat. My friend had a commercial boat out there, and I wasn't on the boat, but my brother was out there fishing with him, and he sees a head in the water. So he says, "Oh, it looks like somebody, in the water, drowned in and all." He says, "Let's go over there, see what the hell that is." So there's a little deer, like a fawn, not a big one, like. So my friend was, I don't know if you know Pete, the gill netter. He was a tough kid. He was a strong kid. He grabs the deer by the head, and he yanks him in the boat. Now the deer's in the boat, and the deer goes crazy. He starts running around the boat. Everybody's freaking running from the deer. You know what I'm saying? And the thing's jumping up in the air, hopping and all. He slams into the windshield, and he drops dead, and he starts throwing green shit up all over the fucking boat, like green puke and all.
The deer just finally dropped dead?
Yeah, because he went crazy. He was so scared, He hit the
my
window and this
God.
and that. So the
Did
funny
it have
part...
antlers?
What happened?
Was it a male? Was it a buck?
I wasn't there, brother, but my brother was on a boat.
But
This
for
is a
him to
true
pull
story.
it, for him to pull it out, might have had antlers, right?
No, it was it wasn't a big deer.
It was a
because
doe. It was a doe.
It was either a doe or when the
Juvenile.
button buck or whatever
Yeah,
they call
yeah.
that. Well, anyway, so the best part was when they go into the fish packer in Montauk. There used to be a fish packer there, Mary's, and they lower down the box, and you'd send your lugs of fish up and that. And so now, when a kid was unloading, he threw the deer in the bottom. He covered him up, and they shot the deer up there. And the guy almost had a heart attack when he seen it. So now here's the Green Conservation coming. You know, they were down there checking to see, you know, if you had your fish right and that. And, well, that was a good laugh anyway.
Have you ever had to stop the boat so someone could call in sick to work?
No, but a lot of them never showed up. You know how many guys died on the way to a charter in the morning?
Whoa.
Or they had like 20 or 30 deaths on the way to the charter. Like, in other words,
All car accidents?
yeah, car accidents. My uncle died. This and you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah.
Excuses.
Says, man,
and
you got a
then-
lot of people dead in your family.
And then they don't show up.
Yeah, exactly. You know the story. You got that one.
Yeah.
When you call the phone in the morning and they don't answer, it's bad.
Well, you still got their money, hopefully.
I had one guy
Yeah,
this
you
year.
have to,
what
because
he
then
did.
you lose work.
Absolutely. I know all about it from booking trips. If I don't collect a fare up front,
Yeah.
that gives them the option of waking up that morning or partying that night before and being like,
Oh, we had so many. I sat at the dock one time, 3 hours for a charter for these guys. They paid,
Happened to me.
dude. They showed up. Now they think they're gonna get that 3 hours back.
Nope.
Because we're sitting there. Hey, our time's valuable too, bro. You know.
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
In the last episode we did, you guys talked about a few of your friends that had these nicknames. One was Munchie.
Oh yeah, those are the Sheepshead Bay guys.
So we're just wondering, what are some of the best nicknames of these guys?
Oh, you got Rudy knows quite a few of them.
Nicky Burns,
George the Cop.
George the Cop,
Well, some guys didn't have nicknames.
Donald Duck,
Donald, yeah. Red.
Red.
Yeah, Red's still around somewhere. Bobby Mayer, but his nickname was the Wizard. We called him. That was his nickname.
Well, Grass Shrimp.
Yeah.
Who else?
Who else?
What are
A lot of
some
guys we didn't like. You know?
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you liked them or not. Just nicknames that if you heard them and you weren't a fisherman or in tune with the scene, you'd be like, "What was that guy's name?" You
Benny
know?
the Grave.
Because he worked in the graveyard.
Yeah. Who else was that? Nicky
George
Time.
George Barrelhead.
Barrelhead. Yeah, they were
My
the old
friend Ronnie-
handliners.
Yeah, my friend Ronnie used to call him Bunker Breath.
Weren't they the old handliners?
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
guys now they never fished the rod and reel. All handlines.
Bunker Breath is a nickname I don't think anybody would ever want.
Yeah,
How'd Munchie get his nickname?
I have no clue.
He's short, like. He was like a munchkin, I think. He's actually a really nice guy. I hope he ain't listening.
Don't worry, he's not.
Got the boat down in our yard. Good fisherman.
Yeah, he's a good fisherman.
No, listen, I got to keep pressing you guys for these names because I've talked to you both in conversations and you mentioned different names where I've been like, what
How
was
about with the guy, the donut guy from, you know him, from
Oh, Joe Donuts from
the guy where
Dunkin' Donuts?
he had the donut store next to Stella Morris.
Yeah, Joe Donuts.
And Louis, Offshore Louis.
Offshore Louis.
You heard that story, right?
Man, this guy,
You got to hear the story with this one.
He was,
You give it. You know the
he
story.
was unbelievable. This guy was nuts.
He used to go out in the middle of the winter fishing.
He used to go out cod fishing
Yeah.
all by
he
himself.
was Hungarian or something. He hardly spoke. Oh, how about Go ahead. I got another guy. Just
He was
thought-
going out cod fishing all by himself in January. And this year that he was going, the whole bay was frozen.
Thanks, buddy.
And he used to call up the Coast Guard and tell them that he was somebody else for them to come in and break the ice for him to get out.
Thanks, buddy.
All right? So he goes out. Now, this guy caught, how big was that cod he caught? 60-something pounds?
Something like, yeah. He was from the other
60-something
side.
pounds.
Yeah.
This guy was crazy.
What do you mean he's from the other side?
He hardly,
he
the
was
English
from
wasn't
Europe.
good. He was like
from Europe.
Hungarian or something.
He used to
like
talk
that.
like, go to the Ronnie house.
Yeah.
You know, he was big guy, tough guy, you know, and he had balls like forget it.
Yeah.
What kind of boat was he
He
taking
had a
out?
22-foot aqua sport
Yeah, piece
That
of
he
shit.
would take out
that
in
he
the
would
middle of the
take out in
winter?
the middle of the winter
by himself.
by himself
Yeah.
and go 50, 60, 70 miles offshore. So one day he's out there in the middle of the winter and the boat don't start. His radio don't work. So what does he do? He sees a freighter. He sets his cooler on fire and they came and got him. They picked up his boat with the crane and put his boat on the ship
yeah.
and brought him in.
I remember that.
That's how crazy this guy was.
And he's probably back out the next day.
Okay,
Well,
fixed
not really,
Fixed
but,
the boat and he went back out.
Yeah, I remember that. Remember the other one, Jack the Greek?
Yeah.
He used to sing when he caught fish. He was a good singer, too.
What would he sing?
You know, like an old Greek song. You know, I don't know what exactly what it was. He always had a pretty good voice, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What would he sing it on the radio?
No, he'd start singing on the boat. Just, you know, you go along, you'd hear him singing. That mean he had a good day.
You guys go to his shows? You buy some tickets?
I got one good story. I just remembered it as when we were going out week fishing years ago. Remember when the slaughter was on, Rudy?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So anyway, it's real foggy in the morning. I'm running the boat out, and I see this guy, a guy and his wife, two old timers, and she has a big straw hat, and he's got like a Texas hat, you know, like from down south and all, right? So I'm going out. I go outside. You can't see 2 inches in front of you. I hear the birds, and I'm following the birds, and I hear the flamingo, and I find the flamingo in the fog, and it's a slaughter on a weak fish, right? So now we're going along, we caught him good, this and that. I look over my shoulder, I see a hat floating by. I says, oh, shit, I wonder what that was, you know? So anyway, goes on, this and that. I see blue lights, the police department, and, you know, it's real foggy and this and that. I don't pay it no mind. So now, coming back in from fishing, I'm thinking about that hat, right? So I'm coming back in, I see you remember the Army boat, the one with the crane?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the guy, his boat is on the Army boat, and he ain't got no hat, and the wife don't have no hat either. The boat sunk out there in the middle of the weak fish fleet, right?
Oh, my God.
So, in the fog, right? They picked the boat up with the Army Corps of Engineer boat. So now my hunger lighter friends, right? They were over there as the boat was sinking. They didn't care about the people. They was grabbing all the fish that were floating on top of the water.
Savagery.
Yeah, it was crazy, bro. I should have taken a picture of that. That was.
You didn't have a cell phone then.
Nah, we didn't have none of that bullshit like you got now, you know. But and the only thing gave it away was the hat. I'll never
I remember
forget that
one day I was out there in the fog with the weak fish blitz.
And then the kid was trying to sell me back the fish that he robbed off the poor old man.
What'd you say to him?
Nah, I didn't want him, you know. It was just the idea of it, you know what I'm
not
saying?
right.
No.
Yeah.
But it was so funny when I seen that hat floating by.
I'm coming in,
Yeah.
and I was docked in Venice
old
Marina
story.
at the time. And all of a sudden, I'm going nice and slow. I hear this. So what the hell is this? It's somebody yelling. I was on Manhattan Beach, and the swimmers are banging on the side of my boat
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, in the fog, yeah.
in the fog.
Yeah.
We came in, and you couldn't see nothing. We had no Loran, no GPS.
Yeah,
no
you look for
nothing.
the depth of the water.
So, you know, you're looking for the depth of the water. So I was in like 6, 7 feet of water, 10 feet of water. And all of a sudden, somebody's banging on the side of my boat. I look over the side, and there's a guy standing there. He says, "You're on Manhattan Beach."
You made it. Land ho.
So we turned the boat. We head east, and we went into Venice.
Oh, that fog will mess you up, bro. I've seen a lot of things going on with the fog. You know how you steer a boat in the fog? You look off the back of the boat. You put a rope off the back of the boat. If your rope is straight, you're steering the boat correctly. Otherwise, your rope is steering the boat without having electronics and all. That's how the old timers did it, by looking off the back of the boat, not in the front. You ain't seeing nothing in the front. Yeah, an old timer told me that.
Any other nicknames that are worthy of mention?
Let's see. Let's see. Benny the Eel. You had guys like that.
How do you earn that nickname?
He was an eel guy. He actually lived on an island in Rockaway. He didn't have a house or nothing. He lived across from the marina in a sunken boat. They flipped the boat over. It was an old dragger. They flipped it over, and he lived inside the boat. And he had an eel pens and all kinds of things in there. He's dead now. He lived in, the old Speedy out at Captree?
Yeah.
That boat used to be in our creek over there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So he lived in a not sunken, but beach boat,
Yeah.
and he lived off of eels?
Yeah, he was an eel guy. He sold the eels. He sold bait. He was, like a bayman. He lived on the island. It was like an island there. People actually lived on them islands in Jamaica Bay. People don't know that there was guys in the early 1900s. There was oyster houses out there. There was baymen out there. There was a big industry back then.
Well, it seems like this guy was kind of homeless. He's living in a shipwreck.
Oh yeah. Then they had one island. They called it Rat Island. It was full of rats. Then another island out there in the bay was full of dogs, wild dogs.
What kind?
The whole island was they fed on the birds' eggs and all that.
What happened to
The
this?
cops went over there. They shot them all up. They came in with a helicopter. Looked like a Vietnam landing zone.
That's
True story.
That's
Yeah,
fucked
it goes
up.
back
We had a
while.
guy in our marina, Joe Pigeon.
Joe Pigeon.
Yeah, he used to fly pigeons, so they called
That
him
was
Joe
big
Pigeon.
years ago, the pigeons.
And then I had a guy that used to fish with me. We called him Chumley because he was fat.
There was a lot of good fishermen back then, though. Back in the bay, out there, the barrelhead in them.
Why do you think there's less? Well, let me rephrase the question. As a younger angler coming up,
Yeah.
right? What does it take to become a good fisherman or to finally be considered a good fisherman?
Got to put your time in. Some guys, it's like football. Some guys are never good, This guy gets on a boat. I'm trying to help him out. He says, I've been fishing 40 years. He says, yeah, you still don't know nothing. But I give him the respect. I'm trying to help the guy out, do the lines a certain way. He don't want to listen. All right. And then they walk off the end of the day of the boat with they got no fish. And they're looking at you like you're a jerk.
Yeah, like it's your fault.
Yeah. It's a tough business to charter business.
I'll give you
Very
a
tough.
good example, and you could relate to this.
Yeah.
What about when you're trolling? And
They don't
you
want to
got
do that.
3 people
Yeah.
reeling one fish in.
Oh, yeah.
One guy reeling, another guy either leaning over or holding the rod, and the other guy holding the person.
Yeah, we done.
All right? And then you tell them to make the line go back and forth so it doesn't ball up on one
Cut.
side. All of a sudden, the line balls up, falls over, and everything is all twisted.
And the fish is
And the
gone.
people tell you that they know how to fish, they're strong, and this and that.
You got to hope they don't
They're
blow the reel up.
muscle-bound, and they can't even reel the fish in.
Yeah. You
This
got to hope they
happens
don't blow
all
the
the
reel
time.
up.
All the time.
Oh, it's the worst. You tell them don't jerk the rod up. As you're jerking the rod up in the air, you're
Yeah,
putting
they
you're
think
putting
they're
a
on
hole.
TV.
No, you're knocking the fish off because
Yeah.
it's a heavy lure, and you're putting a hole in you're knocking them off.
And that's something we actually mentioned in the last
you
episode.
got to keep the boat in gear
When you're reeling in a fish on the troll like that, you keep the rod up.
straight,
Not
too
not
high.
up,
Not
but
too high.
up and straight
Yep.
towards the fish.
Make believe you're a robot.
And you hold it, you hold it there, and you make a reel,
Yeah,
and that's it.
It's hard though because it's a lot of wire out, and
It takes a lot of practice.
Yeah,
Like
and
you
it's
got to
good for
have
the arm
certain
strength.
muscles that are used to it
Yeah.
in order to do it. And there's a lot of guys, they freeze up and the muscles burn and stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't do this no more. And then they pass it off. And as soon as they pass it off, a lot of times they lose
gets
the
dropped.
fish.
And
Yeah.
a lot of time it's only as good as the captain running the boat to keep the thing up in gear, but not too much gear to
Mm-hmm.
take the slack out of it, or
Just enough to offset that
get
angler's
the boat in
ability.
a position where the wind is pushing you off.
Or
to
the
hold
tide.
the tide, a certain way, especially with the bunker spool.
So it must drive you crazy then when you hear people say that
Oh,
boatfish
you know how many
don't
they
count.
lose?
No,
Oh,
when you hear
my
that boatfish don't count, because what you're saying, and I totally agree with it, is that it actually takes skill to land a fish on the troll. You're not just
Oh,
gonna.
it does.
You're not just gonna bring it in and it's nice and easy.
A lot of it's the captain on the boat because he'll compensate. He'll see if the angler's not good, and he'll say, "Well, I got to give this guy needs a little more in gear, a little more speed to compensate because he ain't reeling fast enough."
Well, let's say either of you are the captains of that boat, right? You both know your shit,
Right?
hands down.
They still fuck it up.
No, you
But
got
there
to
still has to be some type of skill to the angler.
Oh, yeah,
just to
definitely.
land it.
Just listen. You got to
Definitely.
feel it. That like when you got a big bluefish on. You ever see them as they're coming in? All of a sudden they start shaking their head and they come out of
And
the
they
water.
and they run
Yeah.
up to the boat.
As soon as they come
slack
out of the
up,
water,
and you're done.
the lure is gone. Okay. Now this can be a jig. This can be a bunker spoon. A plug, anything. But believe it or not, sometimes you gotta feel it. You know it's happening,
Right.
and you walk backwards.
Yes.
Or you just crank
Okay.
the slack.
Yeah, take the slack out of
Yeah,
the line.
but sometimes you can't. It's too fast.
Yeah.
You got the tide and the fish.
Yeah.
If you're going with the tide, no, against the tide, and the boat's running back towards the fish, and the fish is coming towards you,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden now you can't reel fast enough, so you got to walk back. 4
Right.
or
Yeah.
5
You got to
steps.
People
compensate.
don't even know how to do that.
No, they wouldn't know to do that unless
Yeah.
you're experienced and you
Or
know
unless
how to do
they're, open to feedback from the captain.
Yeah.
I've heard both of you. I've been on trips with both of you guys where you've given feedback to people while they're fighting fish.
Yeah.
And either they're just so in the zone and the adrenaline's bumping and
Right,
they,
right.
They can't hear anything except I need this
They
fish.
zone you
that.
out.
I got a good story.
But they
I
should be
hope it
listening.
ain't like the one in the basement
They
with
should
the
be-
axe.
No, it ain't
Jesus
like that.
Christ.
No, this is sort of a funny story, but the guy got hurt. It was not that funny. We were trolling bunker spoons off Norton's Point, and we had just gotten out, and I docked right outside Norton's Point. So we made one pass, we got 2 fish. Another pass, we got 2 fish. Make another pass. Guy's bringing the fish in, and just like you said, he didn't pull it. I mean, he pulled it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the fish spit the hook,
Right.
hit my mate right in the face, right above the eye.
What, the
the
hook?
keel.
Oh, the keel.
The
Could
keel
kill
on
you.
the bunker spoon hit him right on the eyebrow,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, I see him going down.
Yeah.
I grabbed him, and he was a heavy guy.
Oh, you still got that guy, right? I
No,
see him down.
no.
Oh, you don't have him, no?
he
I
don't
seen
work
him down by JoJo's once in a while.
Yeah, he works with JoJo a lot.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, he falls on the floor,
Yeah.
and he's bleeding like a pig. And he said, "No, I'm all right. I'm all right." I had to take him to the hospital.
Sure.
He had a couple of stitches. He almost got a concussion.
Now I'm thinking of another
Almost. You
story.
probably did have one.
Meanwhile, the guy, when you think about it now, it's sort of like a funny story, but it's really not. I mean, the guy got hurt, and it was the guy's fault on the rod.
Yeah.
Because what the guy did, the thing was maybe 10 feet from the boat, and the guy pulled it.
Yep.
He pulled, and all of a sudden, the thing spit the hook, and all of a sudden, this thing came at him like 90 miles an hour.
Oh,
and this guy's a big guy. He's a tough guy.
I know who he
And
is. Yeah.
boom, right on the floor.
You're
For
lucky
a
you didn't
second,
kill
he
him.
was standing there, and I just seen him I said, "Holy shit!" So I grabbed him, and I easily held him, and then knocked him right on the floor. I had a judge on the boat, and the judge called up the cops.
That's
the
a
firemen
plus.
came.
Yeah.
There was lawyers and congressmen. He had all these fancy people on the boat.
Oh, yeah. You get them.
They called up the cops right away.
Yeah.
And as we came in, the cops and the firemen were there waiting.
Oh, good. Was he all right, though?
No, he wound up to be all right. He got stitches, but he wound up to be
I'll
okay.
give you a quick story that just thinking about that. 2 guys fishing off of the Rockaway jetty there, in the inlet. And the guy got stuck on the bottom. I don't know if you heard this story a few years ago. He pulls the line. The sinker comes flying at him, hits him in the middle of the freaking forehead like a bullet and kills the poor guy.
I heard that.
God.
Yeah.
I heard that.
A lot of
story.
guys let me tell you, a lot of guys got wiped out on that jetty. A couple of guys.
Couple.
My friend stood up there 24 hours on the top of the tower over there. They were out there surf fishing.
To hang on.
Yeah, because the waves came in at night, You know how bad it gets over there. Guys don't watch,
Yeah, they don't watch the tide.
They don't watch nothing. They're half drinking, they're carrying on and all that. And
Next thing you know, you can't walk
you're in the
back
middle
to
of
land.
nowhere.
Yeah.
Poor Frankie beached the boat up there years ago. Did you know that story, Rudy? When Rios put the boat up on the beach over there in Breezy? God rest his soul. He used to be my fishing partner years ago.
Did you hear about the other guy, the oil guy?
Yeah.
My friend Frankie Face was on this guy's boat.
Yeah.
His name was Frankie, too. They owned an
Right.
oil company together. It was a 40-something foot boat. They were coming in from tuna fishing.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know this, but there's a pipe, some kind of a dredge pipe on the side of the jetty.
Okay.
He hit the pipe,
Yeah.
and the boat started taking on water,
Yeah.
and the boat sunk in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, right down.
And the pipe actually held him up a little bit.
Oh, he got impaled on it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he got
wow.
hung up on it.
Yeah.
And these firemen from Rockaway actually rescued them,
Yeah.
and they lost the whole boat in 2 minutes.
I remember when Frankie put the boat up on the beach, we get the call. It's foggy. They're out black fishing, commercial fishing. and it was pitch black night. He missed the inlet somehow. He said he lost the electronics or something went out, right? So now we're running up on the beach in the middle of Breezy Point. There's no lights up there. It's like totally pitch. You can't see nothing. We're looking for the guy. We see a boat out in the water, side 2, with the waves busting loose over it, middle of December, probably 5, 6 o'clock at night. And we got down there. We got the guys off the boat. Thank God they were all alive. And we took us 3 or 4, what do you call it, the 4x4 trucks. And we pulled the damn boat out, and we saved the damn boat. It was a miracle, man. Yeah.
And he was a good fisherman, Rios.
Damn good, yeah.
But he didn't live?
No, he lived, but he passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
He says to me, yeah, good guy.
Let me ask you this. Have either of you ever had a passenger on a charter or just any passenger try to take GPS coordinates from you?
Oh yeah, they got moves.
And have you caught them ever?
Oh yeah, they got moves. Forget about it.
And when you catch them, what have you done?
Well, you know what I used to do? I seen a guy, and he wasn't even a passenger. He was the mate. But, he was a hunger lighter. That's what we call those guys. So I went.
What does that mean? Hunger lighter? That's what you said?
Yeah, hunger lighter. He's just, out for the money all the time, out to see what they could grab off you. Maybe they robbed the boat downstairs when you're not looking and stuff like that. That's happened. Rods have been missing.
So a hunger lighter.
Hunger lighter.
Is basically a...
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
So what I did is I made a move. He says, I got to call my brother on the phone. He's with the cell phone. I says, I'm not saying the name. I says, listen, you want the spot? I'll give you the damn spot. Don't worry about it, So you know what I did, though? I went to a different spot. I went to the spot that wasn't really the spot. I says, yeah, here, go ahead. So I gave him I made like a double move on him, Yeah.
Not you, Rude?
Yeah.
Not really. I had a couple of people come on the boat that were pretty sharp, and they ranged it up.
Yeah.
You didn't think that they were that smart, and a couple of days later, you find them on the piece.
Yeah.
You say, what the hell,
I had a mate like that. I told the kid, I says, don't say nothing to nobody, right? And I had a couple of little drops in the bay there that nobody had. So anyway, next day, here's my neighbor and the other guy on the spot. And I know, so now I says, oh man, that's not good. I know we talked, And so now that's less fish for us. It's a tough, it's a tough business.
I used to have a spot years ago in the channel.
Yeah.
I could talk about it because it's not there no more. The
Right.
U.S. Army Corps of Engineers took it out
Oh, okay.
about 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I had it to myself for many, many years.
Right.
I used to use eels on it. And
Oh, I didn't catch you on that one?
No. No, you caught me on the other one off Coney Island.
Them other
remember?
ones are good.
And believe it or not, this spot,
Yeah.
I found it with, remember Ronnie?
Ronnie Lemser?
No, Big Ronnie.
Oh, Big Ronnie, yeah.
Wide Load.
Oh,
That was
okay.
another good name, Wide Load.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Was he the guy that had the house in
Yeah,
Garrett?
he had the
Center?
house in Garrison
Yeah,
Beach.
yeah. With the crazy wife and
He
all.
calls me one day. Yeah, she's still alive.
Yeah, I know. She
calls
tried to
me-
charge me like $1 million for 1 month's rent over there one time.
Oh, yeah? Oh, you know who I seen? I seen Bobby Singer today, who bought his boat.
Oh, Bobby. I like Bobby.
Yeah, I met him in the deli.
Bobby's good.
So what happens is
Good black
Ronnie,
fisherman.
Ronnie calls me up
Yeah.
on the radio, and he says to me, Rudy, come over here. He says, these guys from Bayonne are fishing over here.
Yeah.
He says, and there's a load of fish. I see them on the machine. They're fishing with plugs. They're in 52 feet of water. So I seen them pull one nice fish.
Right.
So I go over there, and I'm looking around,
Sure.
and I see it. So at the time,
You caught the piece.
I put it in my GPS,
Sure.
and I go over it now in 52 feet of water. I try with the spoons. I can't catch anything because they're not going deep enough.
Yeah, and you got a hard tide in there.
Yeah, fucking 3-knot tide.
Yeah, you got to get it
Right.
at the slack maybe.
So what I did was I put the rigs on,
Yeah.
and I stopped the boat when I knew that it was right over the piece, and then I let
it
them
sink.
drop.
Yep.
I put it in gear. All of a sudden, both rods go off. I get
Nice.
a 25-pounder and a 15-pounder on one, a
Right.
35-pounder and a 25-pounder on the other rig.
That was a nice secret spot.
All right. And, you know, we caught another couple of fish, but it was very, very hard to fish it. So it was the end of the year, and I think I did one more trip, and I caught them on bait tails there.
Oh, that's
I
deadly.
had about 30 fish on the piece on bait tails. It was
You got
very
the
hard to
numbers, Cap?
fish. It's gone. The piece is
Oh, I
gone.
hear you. I hear you.
So now I'm talking to Bingle in the wintertime, because he was with me one day when we were fishing there, and he says to me, you know, he says, we got to try with eels. And at the time, nobody was fishing eels in
They
the
always
area.
told you in our area that the
eels
eels
don't
didn't
work.
work in a day.
Right.
And it, you know, it's not true, but
So-
nobody would try it like.
I bought the eels in the fall the following year.
Yeah.
I went there. The first drift,
Annihilate.
I had 5 fish on with 6 guys on the boat.
Yeah.
All right. But the thing was, there was pots on it,
Right.
and you get hung up a lot.
Sure.
I used to lose 2 to 3 rigs every drift on it, but we used to limit out in 2-3 drifts, 12 fish.
That fishing up in that channel got popular now. A lot of the
Yeah.
Jersey guys are going in there right
So
now.
now-
Deep. Yeah.
I used to guard it with my life. When I seen a boat coming,
You run.
my mate would tell me I wouldn't run, because then they'd get me in the wash.
Yeah.
So what I do is I'd head towards them, and try to divert them from coming
Give
in
them
there.
like a dodge move.
Right, so that they couldn't get my wash. And believe it or not, some people that knew me, they respected it, that I was, doing
That's
it
a
for a
lot of
living, and they didn't come near
A
me.
lot of them don't give the respect now. That's what I can't stand.
And I had it for a while. Then after a while, a boat from Jersey,
Yeah.
I don't know if he's seen me there, if he knew it from fluke fishing, he comes up, and I moved off it. He goes right on it.
He had it.
So I went over to him, and I said to him, look, Joe, I said,
Try to keep it quiet. Yeah.
if you're here first, I'll leave. If I'm here, you leave.
Yeah.
The next day,
20 guys.
half of Sandy Hook was there.
Yeah, there you go. There's the respect you got.
And from then on, it was nowhere near as good as it was.
You'll run over a piece
But-
like that.
And then if we fished it in the summertime with live bunkers, we'd kill them there too.
It's a funny thing. If you fish a piece too much, I remember the old timers used to tell me that a lot of times you'll kill it and the
fish
fish
it out.
won't, and they won't show
Especially
up.
if you catch the smaller fish.
We had a place in the bay. We call it the Honey Hole, and it used to be loaded with bluefish in there. We go in there and I get 300, 400, 500, and leave it and come back, and the guys started figuring it out, and that was the end of that. And the fish never really came back there.
Yeah, it's true. Remember years ago when we used to fish the bridge, and then on slack tide we'd fish that red stick,
Right.
that little lifeboat on the ledge there.
That bridge was good.
Yeah, that bridge was real good.
Oh,
And
George used to live there.
Worman was great.
I used to love worming.
And
the hardest
then we
part
used to
was
go to
buying the
Bay 8
flax.
Street. Remember the Bay 8 Street wreck?
Yeah, and
You
the
can't-
islands and all that.
You can't buy a bass on that anymore.
Yeah. There's
know?
there's a lot of good. You're in a good area over there.
Totally fished out.
Yeah.
But I was sick when they took the piece out. They took that, the Jovial Rocks,
Right.
and this other piece up in the river, like maybe a mile from the bridge. It
Right.
was a double humper.
It's amazing how many guys are fishing up in the river now, though.
Yeah.
Years ago, you only had a handful of guys, and who's that guy? Sonny was big up there.
Yeah,
years ago.
Sonny, Donald, Joey,
Yeah.
and there was Dennis the Menace. Remember Dennis the Menace?
Yeah. Once they took the commercial fishing away, a lot of guys kind of, that was
they
the end of that.
stopped. No, there was mainly small fish up there, but now the last, I'd say since the mid 80s, there's been big fish up there.
The problem now is there's too much intel out there. As soon as somebody puts it up on the internet, you got every guy and his uncle.
Not
out
only
there.
the internet, the guy cell phones.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like before, people didn't want to talk on the radio,
Yeah.
so they didn't really say anything.
Yeah.
And, I'm over here. Remember where I was last week and whatever.
Yeah.
Now you pick up your phone and you tell the guy, and then the thing is, he tells another guy, and then all of a sudden you got 30, 40 boats there.
It's amazing how you just. I found a piece off of Coney Island one day by accident going across, and I hit it for about a good year. Every time somebody would come, I jump off it 15 feet of water was loaded, But and then somebody says to me, "How the hell did you get that piece?" It was red. They were going by. They were running over to what do you call it? They were fishing Flint's Knoll. Remember when they killed him over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had 2,500 pounds of bass over there that day.
Insane. Yeah, he had lock and load going on there. I don't know. Is the host here?
He's indisposed.
Oh, all right. Making a move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh, I hear you.
Here he comes now.
Oh, I was going to give you the story about what was that story with the getting hurt on a boat or something? When your mate got knocked out with the bunker spoon. We were umbrella rig trolling years ago. Me and the mate, commercial fishing when it was allowed, so I always told the kid, don't be swinging that damn umbrella rig. Grab it when it comes close, and you know how they don't listen, right? So we're out in the fog, and he grabs the rig. He don't do it like he's supposed to. Reels it up, swings it, hits me in the head with the freaking rig, right? With a fish on, a double header, right? The middle hook goes in my head now.
Oh, shit.
Impaled me on top of the head like this here, like a spear. Right into the bone it went. And now I'm starting to bleed. I said, get the damn fish off and all, right? They're shaking and baking and on there. And now now I'm starting to, it's foggy out. The kid don't know how to drive the boat. And I said to myself, I call my friend on the radio, come over here. I'm messed up here. Get a towel or something because I'm bleeding all over, right? He says, what the hell happened to you? And these guys were the guys that were mugging me all the time. The firemen, I said. These damn firemen, Every move you made, they were on you, these kids. They were good fishermen, though, But so I end up, I throw the towel over my head. I drive the boat in. I go down to the hospital now, right? So I walk in the hospital with a big hook in my head. Everybody's down there in the emergency room in Rockaway. It was kind of like, it looked like, who got shot, this one here, that, this and that. So I go walking in, and they says, what the hell happened to you? And they couldn't get the hook out of my head, So the guy's there and this and that, and the doctor comes. I says, hey, I knew a guy that worked down there, a janitor. I says, Joe, go over there, get a pair of bolt cutters and snip the end off. And they got it out. That was the end of that story,
Yeah, I had something similar like that happen on my boat. Believe it or not, we were out, me, my ex-wife, my friend and his wife.
Right.
And we were in a bluefish blitz with umbrella rigs. And he went to grab the rig. Yeah. There was 4 or 5 bluefish on it.
Yeah.
There were 13 hooks on the rig. All of a sudden, one of the hooks goes right through his finger, through the bone.
Yep.
Because like you said, the fish was shaking.
Yeah, pulling on you.
Pull it in, and the girls are screaming.
Yeah.
So I try to cut the hook. My pliers breaks in half. So Mike Brum was out there. Remember Mike?
Oh,
Daybreaker?
poor Mike, yeah.
I call him over. I said, Mike, I need a good pliers. He gives me his pliers. I cut it.
Yeah.
And the girls are screaming. We got to go in. Got to go to the hospital. So my friend says, no. He says, we're killing the fish.
Yeah.
He says, give me some electrical tape.
Yeah, we done them ones.
Got electrical tape.
Yeah.
And some paper towels.
Yeah.
Rolled it up.
Yep.
We stood out there for the rest of the time and fished.
You manned up.
And there was blood all over the place. Couldn't tell the bluefish blood from his blood.
What's the best boat name you've ever seen?
Lady L, maybe. I don't know.
You should have said Gypsy.
Yeah, we're going to have to.
Shit.
That is a good name, the Gypsy.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? Those.
I guess
I'm going to tell you what. Josh, Jesse, and Jared, you couldn't have asked for better people.
I love them.
And over here, we don't get paid like the guys out in Montauk. And, the tourism is not.
No, it's not tourism. It's locals. And
it's hard. There's a lot of competition.
Yeah, it's like there's almost too many cooks in the kitchen.
You're up against guys in Sheepshead Bay. Like the party boats that they're all fighting with one another, with the Groupon tickets and all they do now. it's like you said also, working for people where the tips got mysteriously disappeared, or it was only half of what it should have been. We talked about that. You know,
It's a funny thing giving the tips because
always give it to the mate because that's where you should do it. And I used to find when
I always tell the
made it
people,
too.
don't give it to me, give it to the mate.
yeah, but even when they give it to them, you know, they hand them
Right,
paper
right,
and then they're gone.
right,
And a lot of the times that mate, from what I've noticed, is taking it, putting it in his pocket.
right.
He's not going to count his tip in front of you.
No, it's not.
So
it's,
he's
it's,
not even seeing it until the customer is gone.
Right.
So it actually offers the opportunity for the customer to, you know,
Well, that's
cut
when
out
the
on
phone
it.
call comes in. If you got the right captain that'll stand up for his crew.
I've done that a few times.
And I mean, I've seen guys, and I'm talking about wealthy guys. We had people, you know, that the money didn't mean nothing to them, like on a boat, you know, and more or less try to, you know, really. And I says, what happened? The kid didn't do good. He wasn't a good mate. What do you mean? What do you mean? I says, well, you know, you should at least, you know, 20% or 15, you know, and that's
At least 20.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you break your ass for them.
And especially if it's porgy fishing.
Oh my God, forget
God.
about it. We got to charge.
I feel
the
like if it's
people for
porgy fishing, we should tell people it's 30%. They
Well,
wanna
not
keep
even
all
that.
them.
You
Because
have to-
a lot of people will keep all these porgies.
Yeah. What happens on a boat with that is, I mean, especially on a gypsy, you after a while you got to charge them because certain people won't give you like. I seen a guy hand a guy $3, like you know.
Wow.
You know.
Wow.
You know. I mean,
No, you know what I did?
it's a certain clientele. You don't want to shoot for that. You know.
My last mate, you know him, Alex.
Yep.
He bought this electric scaler.
We had it. Amazing.
Oh my
I
God.
have one too. I
It is so
raffled it
good.
off.
Yeah, I seen that. They were using it this year. And you know what? I love porgy fishing because I
I
think
like it too.
that's one of the first. That's a fishery that's come back compared to all the other things that have fallen apart.
Yep, that's for sure. If it wasn't for the porgy fishing in the summertime, we'd be dead.
The first week they came in the inlet, we had. I mean, we were fishing them every day, man. I mean, it was like porgied out, you know. Mm-hmm. And but you know what it is? I don't know how them kids do it on that boat because I seen how many fish they had. And I'm like, stop. You know what I mean? And a lot of people won't clean porgies on a
After a
boat.
while, I raised the limit. You know, we're not keeping anything under 11, 12 inches.
Well, yeah. I don't like to keep them little ones. But,
Yeah.
you know, certain people, you can't tell them nothing, like, you know. Yeah, it's just, you know, and once you get a bigger boat, you become a policeman on that boat.
Yeah. I got a
And
guy.
I've had beefs with people, you know, certain people, they won't throw nothing back. Like I told them, like, no, that's short. You got to put it back, dude. You know, we don't want to get no ticket.
I had a
here,
guy
this
come
and
on my
that.
boat. He actually has a boat in my marina.
Yeah,
He's rich.
yeah.
I know who that is.
You know who that is?
We can't say the name like
Well, I
certain
don't even
people.
know his name. I just know he's got a pinky ring that's probably worth more than my life.
We had that, yeah.
And he's got a badge in his pocket. It looks
Right.
like a sheriff's badge.
Right.
All right. So he tells me, "Don't worry, Rudy." He says, "Nobody say anything." He says, "I showed them the badge." I said, "Listen, take the badge and shove it up your ass. You're
Yeah.
not keeping shorts." "Oh, no. They taste better." So I don't give a shit. You're not keeping these fish. When he goes on his boat, he keeps fish 6 inches, 7 inches. I tell him, "Well, what are you doing?"
A lot of the people that are from overseas, they don't really respect the law or nothing like that. Not to give, you know, I'm just saying, like, they're not in our way. Like, you know, you got to respect what you're doing, like, you know. Well, especially if you're on somebody else's boat, you know.
Well, the DEC was in my marina all fall this year.
Yeah.
They really cracked down on a bunch of guys in my marina,
Well, them guys need to be taken
black
off.
fishing
Yeah.
and smoking pot.
Oh my God.
Listen to this.
Yeah.
This is something new that everybody should realize what's going on right now.
Right.
You know, even though
Remember they
pot's
had that
becoming
thing?
legal,
I mean, a lot of fishermen smoke pot.
Yeah.
but it's
and-
pot supposedly is decriminalized.
Not federal.
It's only a fine.
I mean, would you guys, I'm sorry
What?
to interrupt you, but would you guys both agree that pot is less dangerous than alcohol?
100%.
Okay, so.
But the
Yeah.
thing is, you still shouldn't be allowed to drive a boat smoking pot.
Well, let's say you're driving
know?
a boat, you're not smoking pot, but you have guys on the boat that are.
You got to open the windows good.
Well, put it this way. They really shouldn't be doing it on the boat. Now, listen to what's going on
The
now.
zero tolerance thing they had years ago. The
They
sticker.
still have a zero tolerance. Now, listen to what happened. There was a guy he's got a boat right behind me. He went out on a Friday afternoon. This seems to be the way they were doing it. They were doing it on a Friday afternoon. This happened like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. On a Friday afternoon, they were stopping people.
Was it Coast Guard, Rudy?
It was the Coast Guard.
Okay.
And this guy was right by Toys R Us. And all of a sudden, they drove right up on him.
Yep.
And they said to him, "You smoking pot?"
Yeah.
So he says, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
So he says, "Do you have any pot on the boat?" So he says, "Yeah, right there in the bag."
Yeah.
He had 12 joints in the bag.
Right.
The cops searched his boat. They started in the bills and worked their way up. They spent 2 hours on the boat searching the boat.
Yeah.
Okay? They gave him a $500 fine.
Yep.
Okay? Another guy in my marina, the week before,
Right.
he got busted the same way.
Right.
All right? He got busted again. The first time they gave him they let him go the first time. Second time they gave him a $250 fine. Another guy, a foreigner, he was out and he doesn't even smoke pot.
Right.
His son was on the boat with a girl the night before and left a little vial of pot on the boat. They searched the boat. He got a $500 fine.
Yeah.
Some other guy in the marina got a $500 fine. 7 people in the marina in about 4 or 5 weeks got busted for pot.
And they got him in my yard too because I know a guy that got pinched twice.
And you know what they said?
Yeah.
If you were 3 miles off,
Yeah.
then it's a whole different
They
animal.
could have locked you up.
They could lock you up
Yeah.
and they could take your boat away.
Yeah. They're hard to.
They could take your boat away for having a roach or a seed on your boat.
Yeah.
So this is no joke, and people really should start watching what they're doing. Even though when it becomes legal,
Right.
like they're going to legalize it.
Because
I just
federally
read
it
it
ain't
in-
legal.
I just read it in Boat US.
Yeah.
On the water, it's a whole different jurisdiction.
So if someone gets busted with that, is the captain facing the consequences?
Yeah, he's responsible in a way.
Not the guy who has it.
The captain can probably get fined if somebody, but the thing is, if somebody on the boat has it and he had no idea that the guy had it, then no.
That's one thing.
Need a good lawyer. We got a guy for that.
Let's say you're 3 miles off.
If you're 3 miles
you got
off,
guys smoking pot, and you get pulled. Who is getting fined?
if the guy's smoking pot, probably the guy that's smoking pot and the captain.
Yeah, but they got to see you smoking it.
Well, put it this way. How this guy got busted was they came on the boat and they smelt it.
Possession too.
No, but they smelt it. You know,
yeah.
some of this stuff smells like forget about it.
Oh, yeah.
So they come on the boat 5 minutes after the guy smoked, and he reeks of it. So they knew right away somebody was smoking pot on the boat recently.
You got to get downwind of them. It's like hunting. Never let them get upwind of you. You know, like the deer hunting and all that. Yeah. But my friend got locked up BWI.
Driving the boat.
Yeah,
drunk?
they were mad dog guys, drinkers and all, right? And they ended up in handcuffs. He mounted off to the coast.
Yeah, well,
He's-
that's
Is the legal limit the same on a boat as it is on land?
I'm not sure. It would be federal. It was a federal thing. Whatever the federal guideline is.
put it this way: if you're a captain
Yeah.
in today's day and age, and you're working on a boat, you have to be in a drug consortium.
Yeah, yeah. Drug
All right.
testing. Yep,
I'm in it. It's called Maritime Consortium.
yep.
And
JFK, you go for the testing and all.
you know they send you a letter,
Yeah.
and you got to go take a piss test. And everybody that works on the boat has to be on it too.
Yeah.
So then, if you're doing that, and you have clients that come on the boat that you don't know about, you know, they're.
You could get a contact tie out of it, probably. I'm not sure.
I don't know
Really.
about
I'm
that.
sure you have on a couple of trips.
Well, I don't know, brother. I know we went to them old hot tuna concerts. That was, that was some strange shit going on there.
Let me ask you guys a question that people had asked me after the last episode. you guys mentioned the tin can grounds.
Yeah.
What are those and where are they?
Well, the Tin Can Grounds is about a mile, like, southwest
Right.
of the jetty. There's a red buoy. We call it the shoal buoy. It's a number 2. It's right past that. And the reason why they called it the Tin Can Grounds is years ago during the war, a lot of boats, military boats used to sit there, and they used to call them tin cans. So that became the Tin Can Grounds.
Right. And a lot of them sunk there. They put them down on the bottom there, too, I heard.
There's so much
There's a lot of structure there.
structure there. It's unbelievable.
It don't hold a fish like it used to.
No, it
but
doesn't.
let's talk about that man-made structure because the Rockaway Reef is entirely man-made.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I've read online,
the West Side
10,000
A lot of old wrecks,
10,000
too.
pounds
Tires,
Yeah.
all that shit.
subway cars,
Yeah.
cars in there.
Kind of fished out. It's not,
You think it should be expanded?
I would like to see
Put
it.
it this way. I think they should put something down near Verrazano,
Yeah.
like off Norton's Point or something. You know?
Probably because of the navigation with the ships, they wouldn't do it over there.
No, inshore.
Or
Put it in
inshore,
20,
yeah.
30, 40 feet of water.
The
Put a
funny
subway
thing is,
car
the
down?
state never gives
Put
it
a whole
to.
bunch of shit there.
The state never will put it where you really want it. They just have, whatever they designate, for it.
There's so much stuff, like on the Tin Can Grounds where we were talking.
Yeah.
Years ago, it would be like a no-brainer.
Right.
You go there and just piece by piece
Trolling.
by piece, you catch fish constantly.
That was a
Now-
striped bass spot, big
Yeah.
time. It don't hold it like it used to.
You can hardly catch a fish there. The same thing with the jetty. The
We got
jetty's
him a
not
few
what it used to
shots
be
there
either.
this fall. We had a couple of shots.
I got to ask you guys another question that a fan sent in. It's not coming from me, but how responsible do you guys feel for the way the fishery is now in terms of
What do
the
you mean by
striped bass?
responsible?
I mean, the striped bass are on a decline. We can all agree on that. How responsible do you guys feel? How responsible do you think your
You mean like
generation
that
is?
we destroyed the fishery?
No.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what do you mean?
I'm just saying, like, personally, as someone who organized trips for 3 different boats, like,
Right,
I
sure.
feel a sense of responsibility for the amount of striped bass that I've kind of, inadvertently been responsible for killing.
None
And
of
I've
us
been thinking about it a lot.
Couldn't even put a dent in it. Like Frank can witness what it used to be
Yeah.
and how it was harvested.
So then, whose fault is
Okay,
it?
some of it is just cycles,
Yes.
and some of it is gill netting,
Yep.
trawlers,
Paul seining.
haul seining. What would we catch? 2, 3, 500?
The whole seining, they that ain't no more. They cut that.
No,
cut
they
that
still
out.
do it.
Well,
Yeah,
they
but
cut
not
commercial
legal.
fishing
What
out
they
of
do is
New
they-
Jersey, right?
Horse seining is illegal in New York, but there's a way of them
They
getting
gill
around
net
it.
now.
They do what they call a run around gill net. What you do is you shoot it off the shore and shoot it right around a school, and then the guys are on there with the trucks, with the with
Yeah,
the
no wonder the
winches.
surfcasters are pissed.
Oh yeah, don't worry, they got it, bro.
Like put it this
they know
way:
what they're doing.
what they can catch in one tow, we can't catch in 6 months.
I used to do the gill netting, years ago. Me and another guy, we had a boat out in Shinnecock, and I did quite a bit of it, and, we had some pretty good shots there.
Yeah.
So do you feel bad about it at all?
No, because that's what we did. We were commercial fishermen, this was our living,
And that's,
that.
that's totally respectable.
Yeah.
And one of the guys we had on the last episode,
Yeah.
who is a recreational guy,
Right.
okay, he said that
Yeah.
he thinks that, part of the main reason that the striped bass are on the decline is because of recreational fishermen. And that's coming from a rec guy. So
There's so many more guys. If you go to Raritan Bay in the spring, it's like a parking lot over there. When the season
absolutely.
Each boat is allowed one a man. In Jersey, they have a bonus fish with a tag.
Yeah, but they're
allowed-
allowed 2.
But are
And
they
actually, they can
And
get
a
3
bonus
and a
fish. They
trophy
can get
fish.
3.
But are they
Yes.
allowed to commercial fish striped bass in
No.
New
It's
Jersey?
closed in
No.
New
No.
Jersey.
So do you think that in New Jersey's case,
Right.
the recreational guys are doing a significant amount of damage? Because I've seen some pictures where I'm like, Jesus.
The problem
Christ.
is with the way
What do
that
you mean?
I've seen pictures where they have, a head boat with 12 guys,
Right.
and they're using all the advantages they have with the extra tags and whatever, and they've got 24 stripers or whatever it is laid out on the deck.
Right. Sure.
I mean, how is that? And they're breeder bass.
The problem with the fishery
they're
is
breeder bass. I don't know what the commercial regs were before
like
then.
I said on the last episode,
sure.
a lot of times there are guys that go out and they're catching these real big fish
Yep.
with treble hooks
Yep.
and live bunker, and the fish are gut hooked,
Yep.
and they're not catching 1 or 2 fish. They're catching 20, 30 fish.
Yeah. When it's good. Yeah.
These fish ain't living.
No, they ain't.
You know what I mean? Use a circle hook.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
What do you think it's going to take
The
to?
problem is they manage the fishery wrong because you're targeting the fish when they're going to spawn. Even though people don't realize that, there's definitely a spawn going on in that Raritan Bay. There's also one going on in Jamaica Bay.
Which has been pretty much wiped out, from what I could tell.
Yes and no.
Well, what do you mean? Yes.
It's not as you'll get a
The
year
last
where
3 years in both places hasn't been like it was
and
5,
you'll get
6 years
you'll
ago.
get
So what
you'll
is that
get a
telling us
2-week
then?
cycle.
Well, we know that that it's being depleted.
The fish are getting smaller.
Yeah, I'll give you a for instance, in Virginia and Maryland.
Yeah.
All right, they got shit going on down there with gill nets.
You have
First
no
of all,
idea.
their
We talked about it last episode.
I've
actually,
seen it.
their
they got
limit
spotter planes, everything.
Well, that's the
is
bunker
16
boats.
or
Well, yeah,
14
sorry,
inches. Okay,
Yeah,
That's
a different
wiping out
limit
year
down there.
classes.
so
right?
now you got 28 here. You got 36 up in the Cape.
Right.
So you got all different regulations. It's not just one.
So why can't they all be the same reg for all the states?
Because of the way it's managed.
I mean,
just the way
besides
they
the bureaucracy.
do it. Right.
Like
New
if-
York usually gets screwed the most.
If we were to cut out the
Cape, their commercial fishery, I think they can't catch anything. What, over 36?
And they're only allowed to fish certain days in
Yeah,
the Cape.
certain
Like
days.
they're not allowed to
Certain
fish on a
days.
weekend. Yeah. Well, the idea of doing that was in the Cape was to keep the tourists out of the fishery. Guys were going up there. I know fellas, commercial fishing in mass, go up there and load up and sell the fish because you're allowed to. But to keep the tourists out of the fishery, they stopped them fishing for like say Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
from boats and shore.
Yeah,
everything?
you couldn't sell the fish. Only certain days you could sell the fish.
Now, also, there's another thing you got to look at. A lot of this fishery, the bunkers in the summertime,
Right.
they're not in the bays. They're way offshore.
Yes.
All right.
Why is that?
I heard. I don't know. Could be water temperature. Could be
The bunkers was off this year. Wasn't
the
that
bunkers
good?
were rough.
And last
Now
Yeah.
there was a time when we had bunkers all over the place, and there was hardly any fish
Even
on.
in Jamaica Bay, it started early, a shot of bunker.
Now
Then it got tough.
half of the fishery that we had this year was in 40, 50, 60 feet of water.
About 90 feet even.
90 feet.
And then you know what it's becoming too? A lot of thresher sharks.
Yeah.
I've seen them close.
Yeah. We had
One time I was
fluking.
coming. One time I was coming back with Gypsy
Right.
from. It was towards the end of the fluke season when they're in
Right.
deep water,
Sure.
and we were coming back, and there was a school of juvenile thresher sharks
Yeah.
about a mile and a half off of Long
You'd
Beach,
be surprised how many there is.
and they were destroying bunker. Like you could see their tails whipping the surface, everything.
My friend had 30 sharks in a gill net one day, threshers up on a beach in Long Beach.
That's bad though, right? I mean,
Well, it just goes to show you what the hell's swimming in that water. You know what I mean?
well, it also goes to show you what the
They're
gill
not
nets
man
are
eaters,
doing.
though, folks.
But it
look
shows
at-
you what
look
the
at the
gill nets are
bluefish.
doing. They're killing everything, right? I
Yeah.
mean, nothing survives a gill net, right?
Well, the
No.
problem, what it is dependent on the size of the mesh you use, and it targets a specific
Well,
size fish.
And the amount of time the net is in the water, right?
It doesn't help, but the thing is, there's not many guys gill netting anymore. It's that's dying out
And
too.
there's not many guys dragging anymore either.
There ain't because of the permits and the regulations. And there's really, like when we grew up, we used to gill net off the beach down in, Long Beach and all that, right? And there was a shot of guys going out every day, old timers, and they were setting the nets on the beach. But now when you go, you don't get the bluefish. You know, we were mostly going for butterfish and bluefish. That's
Where
where
are the
money was.
bluefish?
They're in Nantucket. It's been terrible, the bluefish in here. We
Yeah.
caught them little ones. Did you get them little ones, Rudy?
Yeah, little
Like 2
1
pounders.
pounds.
There's
Yeah.
no how
was
about
terrible.
what we used to do at Norton's Point
Oh,
in the
my
old
God.
days? That was the fishery.
Do you think the bluefish have been overfished?
I don't know if they're overfished because it's not really a big commercial species. I don't know if they're on a cycle or, you know what I'm saying?
Like, the thing is, who are we to say what happened?
They're actually, and now
Well, I mean, you guys spend a lot of time on the water. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I
what
know,
you
but
think.
the whole
the
thing is,
bluefish are gone.
if
Not
they're,
like
if
they
they're
were.
totally not here, where did they go? They got to be somewhere. They're not
To
extinct.
me, it seems
they're
like
not
every...
off. They're not offshore.
No, everything's moving north.
That's because
Well, that's
the
for
temperature
sure.
is changing.
Everything is more north.
Montauk
I mean,
used
I
to be
caught
like an
amberjack
aquarium.
this year.
It sucks. When I used to go
The
to
bass
Montauk,
fishing ain't good in Montauk
Yeah.
like it used to be.
when I used to go to Montauk years ago, I used to bring my boat there for 10, 12 days. And we used to go out. First, we go to the point,
Yep,
get our limit of bass,
yep.
come in, go to out of Shagwan, jig 600-800 pounds of bluefish in an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. The
How
birds
about
were
that
up
other
all
place?
day long.
The race over there. I don't know if you fished
Yeah.
that.
The rip, yeah.
The
And
race.
now,
Yes, yeah.
they hardly catch anything out there
We used to
anymore.
go on a Hellcat. I don't know if you remember that. Brad
Yeah.
Gladys.
Yep.
And load up on that. And then we used to fish Cartwright grounds over there with the sash weight, you know,
Yep.
with the whole drill and that. That was good. That was some crazy fishing over there.
The sea bass fishing got good.
People don't know about that. That was something, that Norton's Point fishing.
Oh, my God.
You have no idea.
Used to
Monster
anchor up there.
bluefish. Monsters.
And killed the bluefish.
And the 11 can on the incoming.
Yep.
Remember?
3, 4 on at a time with 4
Yeah.
rods out constantly. You didn't even have time to bait them all. That's how fast you were catching them. And all big fish. Sometimes
Big,
the school
15, 20
was
pounders.
from the shore all the way to the channel. That's how big the school was.
Didn't matter. You threw frozen bunker, they ate it. Now you
matter
got to
what.
have the bait's got to be this and that. The fish are finicky now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you guys are using fluoro, all new stuff and all. You know, one day one rig works on the boat, the next day they don't want it. They want something else. You know.
So you know the way they say that a 28-inch bass will have at least one chance to spawn.
That's what they say. Yeah.
What do you think the measurement is with bluefish? You think it's similar
No, bluefish spawn much smaller.
and a lot more, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So-
I'm not on the biology
Well,
of that,
I
but
mean,
it could be looked up.
That's
you know?
what.
Look, you also got mackerel.
Yeah.
When we were young, we
Yeah.
used to catch sacks full.
Yep. Every
Whiting.
April was the mackerel run.
Whiting.
Yeah,
They're almost
the whiting in the winter.
non-existent, these fish.
Yeah, but
now.
why is that? They move
Well,
north.
a lot of it was the whiting got dragged up. A lot of it was the draggers cleaned it up, and the Russians did a lot of when he was offshore here. They done a lot of bad damage.
Because I think in the last
Portuguese.
episode
Yeah.
you said you used to call the whitings baseball bats, right? Because
Yeah.
they were big whiting.
Mm-hmm.
You
They
go in
had a
you go in
fishery in
fairway
Sheepshead
now, and a whiting is like 7
Garbage.
inches. It's a baby whiting.
Yeah, we used
What
to
they
put the
do is-
jig on the bottom, catch the whiting on the bottom hook, and the
Yep.
rest of the tree, you caught mackerel.
The big whiting go overseas. They send them to Spain and Portugal and Italy. There's a fishery for that. So all the small stuff ends up here. A lot of Canadian stuff and stuff like that.
Do you think, as a whole, not just thinking about stripers, but most of the fish in our area and in the world, do you think that overfishing is becoming a problem?
Well, definitely. There's more guys doing it. I mean, I never seen so many boats on the water in my life nowadays. You know, everybody's targeting the bass. When we grew up, it wasn't like that. You had guys all blue fishing and flounder fishing. You know,
There's hardly any flounder. It's hard to
the
get any
flounder
bluefish.
fell apart.
There's nothing left.
Codfish is tough. You know, we used to do cod fishing every winter in January, or McAllister grounds and down off of Jones Beach and catch them good down there.
How far out?
Scallop Ridge.
60 foot, 80 foot, open bottom fishing.
But I mean, how far offshore?
80 foot of water. It'd be 3-4 miles or better like that.
And you'd be getting
Colorado
cod?
Bank. Oh, yeah. We used to do good there. Yeah. I've
There
had
was
over
even
100.
there was a spot off Rockaway
We used to set
called
line.
Scallop Ridge that was
Yeah.
a good fishery for cod 2 years ago.
So what happened to these places?
Well, it got
Well,
fished
the,
out.
the
The
cod
cod.
fish are gone.
People remember one thing. Remember? in the New York, in the United States, one time there was 5 million buffalo, right? And what happened? They shot them all up, right? And then there was like maybe 100,000 left or something. So you know what it is. There it is. Can't keep killing them, bro. You know.
So what's the solution?
The solution is come out fishing with me and Rudy, and you're gonna have a good day. You know. The solution is, I don't know if there is a solution. A lot of times it's the biology of the fish, or everybody's got a different.
There's a
idea.
very good possibility that nature has moved them somewhere else, and to recuperate.
Like we were saying, the fish are
because-
going off into the deep. They're going into the protected area,
Where nobody is.
and they're going to be smart. If they're going to stay out there.
A couple of years ago, the Navy found a giant school of striped bass
Yeah,
in a canyon
I believe it.
off of North Carolina,
Yeah, I believe it.
dormant, just sitting there
Yeah.
in the wintertime.
Well, they do that up in the Hudson River.
Yeah.
They lay up dormant up there. Guys in the old days used to snag them with snaggers. You know,
How
a lot
far
of-
up?
What's that?
How far up the Hudson?
You got to go up past West Point and up that way. Up in it. I'm not
The-
giving a
the
spot. up.
craziest thing is,
I know where that is.
Oh,
Believe
he's
it or
got
not-
it. He's got it ranged up.
It's good.
Raritan
There's
Bay.
good carp fishing there. Too.
Raritan
It's
Bay
brackish water.
is more of a place where the fish winter over than in the Hudson River,
I believe it too. In the deep water,
in the
So-
channel.
in the
So-
channels. I've seen it in Ambrose. I've gone over them.
They're just sitting there,
They sit in the deep water.
They're not feeding. They got
not
lockjaw.
feeding.
I've seen them in 60 feet.
You go in there in April,
Yep.
the beginning of April, end of March, and you put your machine on and you'll see them.
Yep. And when it warms up, they come up in the shallows and feed when they're ready. You know.
There are days you will catch them. One day, it was January, like the end of January. We were going out mackerel fishing on my friend's boat, and it was a beautiful day. It was 67 degrees out. We see the birds up off Coney Island. There was a deep hole over there, and it was warm out.
They come up and ate.
Fish came up.
Yep.
We killed them. Killed them. We had like 70, 80 fish on jigs
Nice.
in January.
The one year where it was warm,
This is in the 70s.
yeah. I've seen them bite in February even. I've seen them off the beach.
Yeah, years ago in the river,
Yeah.
there used to be a lumber
But
yard.
it's closed then, you
Remember
know.
the lumber yard?
But they're still there.
Yeah, I
Where
mean,
they were.
I don't know. I mean, you get a warm winter, like they'll know. You know what? The worst thing for this fishery is a warm winter. People don't know that.
Yeah. If you notice, on the cold,
Why?
cold, snowy
Cold
winters,
sets the fish.
those are the best spawning years.
The
The
cold
best
weather
spawning
sets
years
the
are
fish.
cold, snowy years.
Why is that?
I have no idea, but
Well, what
that
do you
seems
think?
to be.
Why do you think it is?
All the good years, the good year classes that we had were snowy, cold years.
Yeah, definitely.
Because none of the poachers could get to them.
No,
Well, it's not that. It's that they need to go into that dormant cycle.
Yeah.
So when the weather does warm up, they're going to come out and they're going to eat. When they're eating all winter,
Nobody poaching them in the
it's
winter
not like that migration
Because they
going
can't even
on.
catch them. They have lockjaw. They're just
No,
trying to spawn.
the river, half the places that they are, some of them freeze up and stuff, and there's hardly anybody fishing in January.
Another
and
thing
February.
too,
Yeah.
people don't realize with that fishery is there's a big gillnet fishery down in the Chesapeake Bay
Yeah,
in
big.
the winter,
Big.
and it opens up March, January like that. And,
Right now, they're catching 50 pounders off in Virginia. And my friend
and
and his friends are
especially
down
off
there
North
right now.
Carolina on.
nets?
No, they're catching them with
gillnet.
bunkers, with jigs.
Oh yeah, Rudy Inlet. Down in Virginia Beach, there is another good area down there. We used to fish.
One of my friends' friends are down there. Two guys he knows. They got 350 pounders in 1 week.
Yeah. The problem is you can't keep targeting these big fish all the time. You know,
Why is that a problem?
because fish populations are a pyramid.
Why is that a problem? You're the one that just said
I want the listeners
where
to know.
is the problem.
I want the listeners
You're
to-
aware of that.
Those are the spawners.
Yeah.
You're
and-
aware of that, right? That the fish,
I'm absolutely aware of it, but I want
the
you
pyramid.
I want explain the pyramid to our listeners.
Well, it's simple. It's this. The younger the fish, the more, plentiful they are. As they get older, there's less and less.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's like people. They die off when they're 90. There's not as many around like that. The same in fish populations.
Like when we were growing up, you see this run that we had? It never existed. You never caught big fish like
Never.
this.
Never.
In these kind of numbers. Never, ever, ever.
No.
And the crazy thing is, you see, this is easy fishing too.
And
You
it
know what I
is
mean?
because
You
the
go into bunker
technology.
school, you go into bunker school. You either throw a live bunker that you have or snag a bunker. It's like 1, 2, 3.
And the guys have figured it out.
Anybody can catch them. Years ago, it took skill
Yes.
to catch big fish.
And it was a lot. You don't have the electronics on the boat you got now. You got all these guys that are, interface with one another. Joey's calling Tommy over here.
Yeah.
And, it's all this internet and all this other thing. So,
Now, put it this way: how long you think it's going to last when you got 60 boats just sitting there waiting? They know they're going to come up in this spot every day at a certain time in the afternoon.
I'm wondering if the Raritan Bay bite is going to hold up because it's under so much pressure in the spring.
Oh my God.
When you go down there, I'm like, everybody and his mother's been laying up all winter.
The
So they're
best
all
of it-
jonesing to get a damn
Best
fish.
of it was the end of
as many as they can.
the
too.
end of April last year was the best of it.
Yeah.
And then it was
It died right away in May.
a little here, little there, but nothing like it was in the beginning.
And did you notice last year the bluefish didn't really come in that heavy?
No, they didn't come in at all.
Because every other year after the bass died off, we mugged up the bluefish.
At least
good
in
there.
November, yeah.
No, I'm
No,
saying
in
in
the
May.
spring.
In May, there's a
spring.
big. We used to get a
We
huge
used
run
to
in
get the
there.
forerunners, these skinny, long bluefish.
Tons of
We
them.
used to call them the forerunners. They were the spawners.
Yeah.
They'd come into Norton's Point. Forget about it. It was unbelievable fishing. Done.
But I noticed this year that the bunker wasn't that good. That the baby bunker came out of the bay in August. Usually you don't see that till October, November, where the bait's moving out of the bay. For some reason, whatever it was, could have been the hot water because that water was 84 in the back of the bay.
It was very, very hot.
Turtles I saw, all kinds of stuff.
And what about in the river in the fall?
Must have been warm.
Every year there was so much bunker in the river.
Yeah.
This year there was no bunker in the river in the fall.
I heard the North Shore had some bait.
Yeah,
That's what
the
I
North
was
Shore
hearing.
had
We didn't
bunker.
have it.
Yeah,
this year.
because
the
I
time.
remember fishing with you and we had eels. We got bunker from your friend. Nothing touched a bunker.
Bunker's a funny fish, Sometimes they don't want it, especially if it's laying around a while. They can get
but
very
what we were
big.
saying
we had
before
fresh ones.
about the eels,
Yeah.
for years I fished them in broad daylight.
Yep.
Oh, forget about it. I used to slaughter the fish constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly with the eels.
Now everybody's an eel
Broad
guy.
daylight.
They're all into the eels now. We used to do the night fishing. That's all I did. I used to run a lot of charters at night for in Jamaica Bay, and outside Breezy and all that. There was a lot of people used to do the eeling good. When the Yankees played the Mets, that was the best year.
Exactly.
We caught them in the fog. We were listening to the game in the
Yep.
fog. We hearing it like an echo because everybody had the radio on. And I was a Met fan, so, I was losing right away.
Yep. I
Yeah.
remember that year.
Yeah, that was good.
What year was that?
I don't know. You got to look it up. Google it.
Probably
Go on the dummy phone and
12
figure it
to
out.
15 years ago.
That was good. It was foggy like crazy.
So one of the last questions I want to ask to you, Frank.
Go ahead.
So Anthony Bourdain
Yeah.
is someone that inspired me to start this club.
Oh, really?
I
No
was
kidding.
I was in a place in my life where I wasn't doing so well,
Right.
but I was spending a lot of time watching his show,
Okay.
and seeing what he did inspired me to
Right.
start this club.
Really?
And
Wow. Well, you're doing a good job at it, and I, really,
well, I
got
appreciate
to give you that.
And I wanted to ask you
ahead.
about the time when you fished with him.
Yeah. It was actually interesting because they wanted to go out 2:00 in the afternoon, and I'm like, what the hell are we going to catch now? Where are we going to get the bait? They wanted to do the live bunker fishing, and how are we going to figure this move out? You know what I mean? When you're running a boat, you got the monkey on your back, bro. In other words, the guys are looking at you when you ain't catching fish. Who's this freaking dummy? But you know what? We got the bait. Everything came together. We just had the chi that day. It was like magic. I says, you know what? We're going to do good with this guy because every time we had these TV shows out on a boat, we usually always had a good day, And so the guy says to me, the lady, there was English people running it, like the production people or whatever they are. He says, Mr. Bourdain, he enjoys what do you call it, the Corona and what's that other one, Heineken beer? I says, all right, so we'll get a case each, right? Bring it on the boat. The guy's like a stiff. I says, nobody's talking. I guess, who the hell knows, right? So after a couple of beverages, we loosened him up. And he says, he had a great trip. And then they cooked it on the dock.
Can you tell me about that trip a little bit?
We caught.
So he started off kind of cold. He wasn't really talking.
Yeah, well, it's hard.
was
There's like
warming
guys with cameras all over you and all this and that.
Yeah.
And you're trying to. They say no, get out of the way.
Did they have a follow boat too?
Yeah, they had a filming boat. Yeah, they had another guy. Yeah, we put the other guy on that boat, and actually the first fish he caught was like a 12-pound bluefish on a live bunker, which was pretty good, and then he got a 26-pound bass on a live bunker for a guy that didn't really know much, but the guy with him, I don't know if you know David Pasternak, the chef. He's got a big restaurant in the city, Eska. It's like he's a friend of mine anyway. He's involved in a lot of the TV shows and stuff like that. But he's the one that was with Dave and Anthony were on a boat that day. Anyway, it's called The Last Episode in Brooklyn. I don't know if you guys saw that. That's the name of the episode. The TV episode.
Is that the one where he went to Red Hook too? To the
yeah, he went all around Brooklyn. Like he went to Roland Roaster.
There was one episode I seen that he got off the boat at Stella Maris.
That was it.
That was it?
So what happened when we got into Stella Maris? They had a nice little barbecue setup where Dave and Anthony were, grilling up the fish. We filleted it out
and he was cooking them.
Yeah, he was cooking them and Dave was cooking them. Davey was mostly doing most of the cooking, Anthony was like the big shot there, But he had some good stories,
Can you tell me a little bit about him?
Yeah, you know what? When I first met him, I kind of said he's like reserved and all. I guess, you're dealing with people every day, I don't want to bother the guy, But meantime, the thing was, when the bluefish hit, I had to grab him because I thought I was going to pull him over. He was, he was like a tall, lanky guy. So I says, hold on, grab that guy. He's the star. Don't go overboard, So the guy, he loosened up. He says, you look like Paul Newman, a tall one. He does, actually. So that was my thing of it. He was a great guy. You know what? Easygoing. And I really find it hard to believe that, not to know nothing with all this conspiracy kind of thing, but I can't believe the guy killed himself, really. It's really hard to believe it.
Yeah.
There's
a
a lot of things on the internet, I don't know what to say, but it's really hard to believe it. He was kind of like not so much, I'd say he was kind of like a philosopher, more, not just the cooking, but his whole aspect was to show how it really is, the people, what's the story behind it,
So,
in other words, it's not just, here's these slubs that are going out fishing and that, but it was a good show, I enjoyed it. And,
so what kind of questions did he ask you?
Well, it was mostly, how do you, fish? How do you bait the hook and such like that,
But did he ask you anything about the history of what you've been doing, or?
It was more or less
so he was trying to catch fish.
It was more or less to, to get the shot, get the guy, and they dropped a few fish, and we had a lot of good laughs, and when we got to the dock, it was even better, because they really did a great job on the fish. I swear to God, that was one of the best pieces of fish I ever had. And I'm not a big striped bass guy.
But he cooked it up, and it was delicious.
And Dave did it. He's really talented. That guy. I'll give him a shout out.
So he brought Dave on the boat to fish.
Yeah, it was him and Dave going around showing Brooklyn and all the different spots, and they went to a couple West Indian places that have really good food, and a couple other joints. It was interesting. We did a few other TV shows actually. We did about 3 of them for the Food Network. Then we did one for ESPN Sports. We took these guys out from Canada. Then we did a shark show, which we didn't catch no sharks, but we got a 43-pound bass. That was nice.
Take it. I'd like to actually dedicate this entire episode to Anthony Bourdain because
I think that's very nice.
you know what? I don't think any of us would be sitting here having this conversation if it wasn't
I tell you
for
what, I
him.
really enjoyed his show. And, not even knowing the guy and meeting him, it was pretty good because when they did do the TV show, they had a premiere party and we all got invited to the party down in Brooklyn. They had rented out a club, the production company, whoever it was, and all them big celebrity chefs were in there. But, we kind of hung with our own people. I don't like bothering people,
Yeah.
I wasn't
But
raised
that was
way.
that was very nice of them to invite you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And let me tell
They
you, the
didn't
rum
have
was
to,
good. They were
you know?
giving it away. Some lady had some kind of rum. I don't know what it was. It was pretty good, though.
It worked though.
Oh, yeah. It was. We had a night. I mean, the food was unbelievable. Like, they had it catered and all that,
Guys, I think we're gonna have to actually do a part 3. So
And I tell you what, and Rudy knows it also. You meet a lot of crazy people on the boat. You never know who's going to walk on your boat. I've had, like you say, the TV people. I've had Googans. I had Jerry Garcia's personal chauffeur. I used to like to go to the Dead shows years ago. He says, I drove him to over 100 shows. I says, you must have some good stories on that one.
if you can remember it.
Yeah, forget it, man. Yeah.
But anyway, if you have anything you want us to talk about, email us, brooklynfishingclub@gmail.com. We also sell apparel and all the proceeds.
Yeah, I'm waiting to get one of them sweaters, Cap.
All the proceeds from our apparel
Get an honorary one.
are funding the podcast. So if you want a shirt, if you want a beanie, well, he joined the club.
Oh, you're in the club?
All right, we got to cut
Probably the
this.
vice president
I love
right
you
now.
guys. Thank you for listening. And with that, we're signing out. We'll see you next week.